Okay.
You can start now.
Okay. Thank you very much. Again, a warm good morning to the class. This is MPSC 1. The title of the course is India and the World. Today is the fourth class. Um, Today is 2nd of February. Let me just do a very quick recap of the things we did 2 weeks ago. We did not meet last Sunday because it was a Republic Day holiday. 2 weeks ago, on 19th of January, we basically covered a broad overview, a panorama of India and the neighbors. In that particular chapter, we talked about individually and also in a collective sense, in a cumulative sense. Of course, on a bilateral basis, we talked about India, Nepal, India, Bhutan, India, Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, India, Maldives, India, Pakistan. We also talk about multilateral institutions like BIMSTEC. We talk about SARC and all the issues that are certain issues which are very common. For example, corruption, for example, poverty, for example, a lot of socio-economic issues, etc. But there are also issues which are very specific to those countries. And I think I highlighted the issues, for example, how Nepal and Bhutan, they used to cope with the issues of a geographical barrier, sort of, as landlocked countries. So when you are locked inside and you are surrounded by, you don't have any outlets to the sea or to the ocean or to the waterways, and you are, strangely enough, you are caught between the two big giants, kind of, India and China. I mean, how you deal with that, how you manage that, how we cope with that, how you maintain cordial relations with both the countries, which are very ambitious, which have got different, very lot of high-profile agendas, etc., and particularly in a changing global geopolitics, geoeconomics, and geostrategies. Similar things with Bangladesh, and again, each countries in the world, they undergo a lot of changes in terms of regimes, in terms of administrations. Bangladesh, for example, we discussed very quickly how Bangladesh was created. I mean, relatively new country. You can say like a baby country in 1971, 72. Then we had got the governments of Awami League. We have got Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Then he was killed with his family, replaced by a military person, Ziaur Rahman. Again, he was also killed. Then we have got governments basically led by the widow of Ziaur Rahman and also the daughter of Mujibur Rahman. And since then, I think we have got another military dictator, Hussein Muhammad Irsad government in Bangladesh that ruled in the 80s. Then we have got for a couple of decades, we have rules by Hasina Wajed and also Khaleda Zia. Khaleda is the wife of late Ziaur Rahman, former president of Bangladesh, and Sheikh Hasina Wajed, she was the daughter of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. And just last year, if you recollect, there was a big revolt against the Hasina Wajed government, and she had to flee Bangladesh. She had to take shelter in India. Still now, she is in India. And we have an interim government in the meantime in Bangladesh, led by the economist Muhammad Yunus. And he has promised that he's going to have an election by the end of this year or maybe early next year. So let us see how things turn around. And a lot of things that happen not only in India or South Asia, as you know, particularly the role of the external actors. I think those are also extremely crucial and extremely German. For example, when Joe Biden was there, he was kind of very friendly to Yunus. So let us see, now that we have a new president in the United States of America, Donald Trump, for the second time, how he handles or he deals with the Bangladesh issues or the Yunus regimes, and if at all there is going to be a change of regime or a transition, etc., we don't know. I mean, how India is going to deal with Bangladesh. So there are a lot of issues around. In Sri Lanka, again, one of the main issues is, of course, the 90s, 80s issues of Tamil insurgency, Tamil separatist movements, those Ilam movement, Tamil Tiger issue that is little bit behind the past. But again, the issue of Chinese assertive diplomacy in Sri Lanka, in Maldives. That is also a matter of strategic concern in certain quarters, in certain circles in India. So let us see, I mean, how those things that does take place in different places. Okay. With Pakistan, we have a on again, off again relationship. Uh, Currently, we have Sabaz Sharif, the brother of Nawaz Sharif. He is the he is the Prime Minister of Pakistan. Before that, we had Imran Khan. So we don't know. I mean, it is possible Imran Khan is currently behind the prison, he may be freed, maybe there will be election, or maybe there will be a change of government, and if so, how India is going to deal with that, and how what kind of changes it is going to bring about in South Asia. So I think let us wait and see how things unfold. I think a lot of things will happen, how America views, because America is a big country, they have got overarching influence and impact and ramifications, what happens in different parts of the world, particularly in South Asia. So that's what we discussed. As far as India, Southeast Asia, and Pacific is concerned, I told you about how India made a transition uh, between India and the in the 90s. We had this policy of India's look east policy, heralded by then Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao and then Finance Minister Manmohan Singh. And for a while, I think historically India's policy has been look west, basically to the Gulf countries, to the Arabian Sea, to the West Asian areas on the west part of India. And since then, we felt that we need to diversify, we need to expand our sphere of influence, sphere of trade, commerce, people to people contact, etc., etc. So that's why we went to the Southeast Asia in a big way, individually and also in a collective way, in terms of multilateral institutions like ASEAN, ARF, Asian Regional Forum, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, etc. Then individually, we also entered into some meaningful trade relationship, commercial relationship with some of these countries like Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam, Indonesia. Just a couple of days ago, the president of Indonesia was here, and he signed some agreements on defense and other areas with India. So we have got a very robust relations with individual countries. In Singapore, we have got a very good relationships, and that is on the upswing. Our Prime Minister has made it a deliberate effort to visit literally all different countries, including small countries in the Pacific like Fiji. I mean, I do not recollect in my lifetime any Indian Prime Minister going all the way to Fiji. Uh, uh, we only hear about Fiji, as I have said in the last class, is when the New Year celebration starts in the Pacific, because usually that's how we used to hear it. But today, India and Fiji, even if it's a very small, tiny country, we have a relationship which is growing. There is also a very vibrant diaspora, Indian diaspora, which is very much visible and evident in Fiji. So we have got Southeast Asia relationship at different levels, at cultural levels, at economic levels, at strategic levels. We have Malabar exercise that is going on with number of multiple countries. We have got free trade agreements. We have Comprehensive Economic Partnership Act. We have also Most Favored Nations clause with a couple of countries. So I think overall we have a good relationship and it is growing. So that's a good thing from India's point of view. Uh, and also, remember, we do have some multilateral initiatives like quadrilateral initiatives with India, US, Japan, and Australia. So we have got relationship with Japan, for example, with East Asia for a long, long time, for 50, 60 years. And also one of the things that our Prime Minister has done, not only the current Prime Minister, but also the former one and the one before that in the last 20, 30, 40 years, that we have developed some good personal chemistry. I think that is also very significant. That's also very, very important when you deal with a nation to nation issues, because there are a lot of contentious and complex issues that you cannot deal only at a bureaucratic level. You need to handle it at the highest level. For example, both Dr. Manmohan Singh as well as Prime Minister Narendra Modi, they developed some good relationship, good personal equation, a good personal chemistry with Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, who was killed a couple of maybe last year or the year before. So we have got good robust relations with Japan. We have got a Japan has invested hugely in India in the infrastructure. One of the things we see right here in Delhi is the underground metro that is completely funded under Japanese ODA, Official Development Assistance. Under Japanese ODA, India has been a big beneficiary. There are a lot of important projects, hydroelectric projects, polio eradications, forestation drives in Karnataka, and many places. I think I can pick and choose. The freight corridor systems, the bullet train, which is in progress. Maybe in a year or two, you will see the first bullet train operating in India from Mumbai to Ahmedabad. That is again uh, due to the collaboration of Japan and Japanese technologies. So we have got good relations in East Asia with Korea also. There are a lot of big companies like Samsung, Hyundai, etc. They are setting up industries here. So it's on a give and take on a reciprocal basis. On India and Central Asia and West Asia also, I think one of the lessons we learned at the end of Cold War was, excuse me, at the end of Cold War was till the Cold War, 1945 to roughly 1989 or 1990, for those 45, 46 years, we used to rely kind of very heavily on Soviet Union, then Soviet Union, USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. In a way, it was good because we got a lot of support from Soviet Union during tough times, both during good times and bad times. It happens like in a personal life, in a nation's history. A lot of times you need somebody who is tried and trusted. And Soviet Union did stand behind India uh, in a reliable way, like a reliable partner. Okay, whether it is a Kashmir issue, whether it was India-Pakistan war or India-China war, or the economic crisis that India faced in the 60s and 70s. So on many multiple occasions, we did sign an agreement like India, Indo-Soviet Treaty of Peace and Cooperation, because we did not get support, adequate support, I would say, from the United States of America uh, during this Bangladesh crisis or Pakistan crisis in 1971. So the point I was trying to make was during the Cold War years, basically India's foreign policy uh, policymakers, they put literally all eggs in one basket, and that basket was Soviet Union. So I think that is a wrong approach, and that is a very short-sighted approach, very parochial approach. And at the end of Cold War, when Cold War ended in 89 and 1990, there was no more Soviet Union. The old Soviet Union was dismembered into multiple republics, Russia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, all those, Georgia. Then, I mean, we are kind of short-circuited. We are kind of limited by all these developments in different ways. Okay, so this is from that point onwards, we tried to improvise our policy and injected one on national autonomy. And in the under national autonomy, sorry, strategic autonomy, we tried to cast our net in a very wider way, in a much more diversified way. So instead of putting basically using that metaphor again, using all eggs in one basket, we tried to put few eggs in multiple baskets. So that really served us. And that's how, when our Prime Minister says, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Prayas, Sabka Viswas. Okay. So I think that is a kind of culmination of all that particular efforts that we see over these years. And that happens in Central Asia. We have got now relations with Kazakhstan, with different countries. The leaders, they do come to us, to India, um, and we also try to reach out to them. Our leaders at the top level, whether it is Prime Minister or External Affairs Minister, Defense Minister, they do visit. and they do discuss about all of to enhance and to promote the relationship. Similar things are also happening in West Asia. During the last G20 summit, if you recollect, we came up with many things, but one of the major takeaway of the last year G20 summit when it took place in Delhi was this creation of so-called IMEC, India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. That's a very ambitious venture that will, if that happens, which has not started yet, that will connect literally India with all countries of Gulf countries, the West Asian countries, okay, and into Europe, okay, and in which America is going to be a partner, European countries are going to be partner, major West Asian, Arabian countries, whether it is Israel or Jordan or Egypt or Saudi Arabia, and the Gulf countries, Kuwait, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Oman, all those countries, Bahrain, all of them are going to be partners. So it's, and plus India. So I think it will, if it fructifies in the next couple of years, I think that will be a good thing. So let us see and wait and see how the new US President Donald Trump, he's going to view it, because this was the brainchild and a baby kind of, you can say, of the former president Joe Biden. But how Trump takes into it, because the president's initiative, that means a lot, whether he's willing to put time, effort, and also money. Because as far as we know about Trump is, of course, this is too early to make any definitive judgment. It's only what, 2 weeks now that he has taken over. He's the president, and is he going to put the money? Because he has pulled out US from NATO. He has pulled out US from WHO, World Health Organization. He has pulled out US from the Paris Climate Change Accord. He's also threatening the NATO countries that you guys, you need to pay for yourself. I'm not going to pay anything. Basically, I'm elected by the American people, and my agenda is very simple: make America great again, MAGA. So let us see. I mean, in course of time, the next couple of months, I think we will see exactly, does he say what he means what he says, or is he going to be a little bit more realistic and maybe modify some of his positions. So we don't know. So I think let us wait and see a couple of weeks and maybe a couple of months, then we'll get to know about it. And if Donald Trump, the US president, does take initiative in this G20, that byproduct, India, Middle East, European economic corridors, I think that will go a long way. And that is going to be a big game changer, I would say. Other thing is the Abraham Accord, when Israel's normalization issues concerned, certain countries, they did jump into the bandwagon, like Bahrain, like United Arab Emirates, like Morocco, etc. Is that group going to expand or not? Because if that happens, that will be kind of another good, right path toward normalization. So we'll see, I mean, how it goes in terms of the West Asian thing. West Asian area, I'm sure you must be reading it in the newspapers, or must be watching in TV, or you pick up any magazines or any books. I mean, it's a very fluid situation, very dicey one, very dynamic, in fact. Lot of things are happening in West Asia, and if something is happening in one part, there is a domino effect on the other part. So, for example, in Iran, let us see, I mean, how things unfold in Iran. If Iran goes nuclear, how America is going to react, how Israel is going to react. Are they going to attack Iran directly or indirectly or through proxy, or they make an effort toward a regime change like America did in 2003 when they started the Iraq war, accusing Saddam Hussein of acquiring and possessing WMD, weapons of mass destruction. So I think each of the countries, like in Saudi Arabia, for example, currently Saudi Arabia is going through a process of transformation, a process of modernization under the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Sultan. So let us see, I mean, how America is going to view that, and if Saudi Arabia is going someday to normalize relations with Israel, then other countries in the region, Egypt, for example, uh, and also certain fallouts. For example, just few days ago, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he said that he's going to kick out all the Palestinian people from Gaza and put them in Jordan or Egypt. Now, those countries, they are not ready. Neither they are ready physically nor they are ready financially to take this influx of millions of people who may be thrown out of Gaza if Israel carries out that particular threat. So let us see, I mean, how it happened. And that might have repercussions, that might have a ripple effect on the geopolitics in West Asia. As far as India is concerned, we have got quite a good number of millions of expatriates in United Arab Emirates, in Kuwait, in Qatar, in Oman, Yemen, in Bahrain. They do provide a lot of remittances to us. We do have also some of the leading companies in India. They are also having big establishments, big investments over there. Our Prime Minister has also visited a number of multiple times to each of those countries in the GCC, Gulf Cooperation Council, not only in terms of trade and commerce and cultural and educational areas, but also in terms of enhancing and promoting India's soft power. You must have heard about the temple diplomacy, herbal diplomacy, Kerala Ayurveda. A Hindu temple is being set up in Abu Dhabi. Indian university campuses being built in different parts of Middle East, including in West Asia. IIT Delhi, for example, they recently set up a branch in Abu Dhabi. A lot of the private universities like BITS Pilani, they have a branch in Dubai. Symbiosis, they do have one. So I think we'll see. I mean, there are a lot of schools over there. They follow the CBSE curriculums. So there is a big connectivity in terms of the diasporic connections. So West Asia is something that I think we all need to look into very carefully because a lot of things are happening very, very fast, and that might have a chain reactions in the way India's relations with West Asia and other countries that come up. We also discussed a little bit about India and Latin America and Caribbean countries. Um, Prime Minister again visited some Caribbean countries recently, like Guyana, etc. We do have again vibrant diasporic population in countries in Caribbean areas, in Trinidad, in Tobago, and all those places. Although the volume of trade and commerce is reasonably low, but still, I think it is very vibrant. It is also growing. Um, India, Mexico, India, Argentina, India, Brazil. Last few months ago, the one after Delhi, the G20 summit took place in Brazil. So, and Brazil is also an important part of our overall policy orientations toward Latin America and toward South America, etc., etc. Uh, Today we'll talk about India and Africa relationships. India and Africa, they have got a historical relationships since the Vedic period, since Egyptian civilizations. You can just check in the Google or you can check any books, for example, trade, commerce. Um, I was recently in Kochi, in Kerala. I was told how the trade and commerce used to take place and from different parts of Africa coming over here to all those western coasts, and how that mushroomed into a bigger trade hub in the western parts, particularly along the lines of the Arabian Sea. Uh, I think when we talk about the historical backdrop, one of the important persons that nobody can miss is the role of Mahatma Gandhi, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. And I believe I asked these questions to some of you, and maybe I will recommend again. If you have not seen the movie Gandhi, of course, there has been many movies on Gandhi, but the one that I'm referring to is the one that was made way back in 1982 and which got number of multiple Oscar awards. Uh, that particular movie, Gandhi, directed by Sir Richard Attenborough, I think um, the British actor Ben Kingsley, he played the role of Gandhi, um, and Rohini Hattangadi, she played the role of Kasturba. I think I would recommend, if you have some free time someday, you can go to a video store maybe, or you can in the net also. I think you can just watch that one. I think this is a little bit long movie, but I think you'll like it. Particularly in this particular segment, where you will see Gandhi after getting his law degree from Great Britain, going to South Africa, spending few years, then how his entire life, his mind, uh, his thought process, everything changed in a very profound ways when he came face to face with the realities in South Africa, particularly in terms of colonialism, in terms of apartheid, in terms of poverty, in terms of disease, in terms of discrimination, racial discrimination, that has been seen in that movie, and which is also true and factually correct, is how Gandhi, in spite of the fact that he had a first class railway train ticket and he was traveling in first class, and how he was asked to get down in the next train stop, but he refused to do that, then his belongings were thrown out into the platform. How the Indian laborers were not paid their dues, or even if they are paid less than what was their due. How the people who were Indian or colored people, they were called, how they were not given any job opportunities, how there's discrimination and segregation at every levels of the African societies, particularly in South Africa. And Gandhi fought for that. Only in the latter years, in 50s and 60s, we have people like Nelson Mandela who took the mantle from the Gandhian ideas of nonviolence, civil disobedience, Sarvodaya, Swaraj, etc., etc. So basically, he carried that ideals forward, and ultimately, in the late 80s, South Africa ultimately became free from the policy of racial discrimination, racial segregation, the policy of apartheid, and ultimately, South Africa became a multiracial state or a multicultural place. I think I also told you in one of my classes how in the for a long time, India did not recognize South Africa because of the racial policies, and even on the level of athletics like sports, like particularly cricket, we did not allow the South African team to visit India, nor the Indian team went to South Africa for a long time, for many decades. Only after South Africa became a multiracial state and there was a constitutional government in Pretoria, in Johannesburg, then only South Africa was admitted to India to play cricket. And we saw there are players who are white, there are players who are black, there are also players who are of the Indian origin or the colored people. So similarly, Indian team has also gone to South Africa. So things have changed, but it was not the same 30 years ago, 40 years ago, or 50 years ago. So Gandhi definitely played a very important role, and he learned this rope of resistance. I think one of the things he learned was, you need to stay and sustain, and you need to struggle. So when he came back finally in 1893, I believe, and landed his ship landed in harbored in Mumbai, Bombay in those days. So he started the SALT movement, he started this Bardolai movement, he started. So this 1900, 1910, 1920s, 1930s, all the Gandhian movements, it was highly influenced, highly impacted by whatever Gandhi learned in South Africa. I remember in one of the scenes, I still remember, Gandhi was arrested and Gandhi was asked to pay in today's term, it will be a very paltry sum like 100 rupees. Okay. So Gandhi said, I refuse to pay 100 rupees. Then the judge was very much confused. He got very perplexed. He said, okay, how about 50? Okay. Gandhi said, I refuse to pay 50. Then he said, okay, how about 10? He said, I refuse to pay 10. Then the judge was completely disoriented. He said, okay, now I'm ordering your release without any financial guarantees or any things like that. Okay. So, I mean, I think Gandhi learned the things that if you need to fight for a big thing, like particularly fighting against a big colonial power, and Great Britain was there in South Africa. Great Britain was also the colonial power in those days in the early part of 20th century in India as also. So, uh, so he and his associates and his compatriots, they did fight British in spite of the fact that they were underdogs, they had hardly any money or any materials, etc. But their morale was pretty high. And ultimately they became successful and India became independent in 1947. So I think we all know, I mean, the kind of contributions and kind of things he learned during his years in South Africa. Also, when we talk about India-Africa relations, we know how the India had a concern for worldwide liberation, particularly the different countries. Okay, because one of the things we learned was you need to stay with your friends and you need to support them on a continuous basis. And after India became independent, if you notice that from 1947 to roughly 19 early part of 50s and mid 50s and late 50s, in those 10, 15 years, okay, one by one, number of countries in Africa, they got independent, they got encouragement, they got boost from if India can do it, maybe we can also do it. And then we saw some individual leaders in each of those countries, they are coming forward and they are also taking the mantle of independence and the liberation movement. So India did provide a kind of moral crusade to those particular countries. India also supported the humanitarian considerations in 47 to 64 because of so, drought conditions, a lot of poverty out there. So whatever things we could help, we did that. India also supported number of countries in Africa through Nehru's vision and ideals of non-alignment movement. Many countries they took part in that, and particularly leaders like Nasser in Egypt, like Nkrumah in Ghana, Jimmy Kenyatta from Kenya, Julius Nyerere from Tanzania. So I think number of those leaders they played very very important roles in shaping and consolidating this newly formed non-alignment movements. And I think for a while, because non-alignment movements, there was a broad consensus that we should try to maintain our autonomy uh, and our neutralities. Okay, we do not, because non-alignment stood for without any dominance by any particular state. It was against any military alliances, against Cold War mentality. It was against ideological polarization, neither on the socialist or communist nor capitalist. Okay, so we did not like these countries. They did not like to go the Soviet Union way or the American way. Okay, they tried to develop their own path of development, emphasizing on mutual friendship and equality, supporting the newly created United Nations that was created at the end of World War II in 1945, and all the agencies, the specialized agencies, UNICEF, UNESCO, WHO, and the major restructuring of UN, okay? And also the environment also played important role at the end of Cold War also. So NAM, although the different countries, they are vying from a realist perspectives on power, on national interest, on survival, on self-help, but still I think they don't like to be aligned officially with one particular factions or one particular groups and trying to develop a solidarity sort of within the South countries. If you look in terms of the binary of like North versus South, North meaning the very, very rich country, affluent countries, the South meaning kind of developing countries and least developed countries, etc., etc. And I think that is still valid even in the age of globalization, where different countries have got different ambitions, different expectations. But there are certain issues which are very common and there is complementarity of interests. For example, human rights, climate change, global warming, AIDS, pandemics, um, ISIS, counterterrorism, drug trafficking, human trafficking. So I can just go on and on. So, I mean, what kind of things non-alignment can bring in terms of a new global order or a new international order, okay? And can non-alignment and strategic autonomy, can they coexist with one another? I think that's also very, very vital. So I think in going back to again to Africa, we saw how the alignment as an organization, as a body politic, it took shape and it expanded. India's trade with Africa, we had got this African Union. Before that, we also have individual bilateral relations with different countries in Africa. Okay, not only in East Africa like Uganda, Kenya, Somalia, um, but with Mozambique, with many other countries, Indian private industries, they are also setting up different things. Okay, in many places. So I think India has a good groundswell of support among a vast majority of people because they feel that there are a lot of issues. India and all the African countries were on the same side of the fence in terms of human security index, in terms of human development, in terms of many other issues. So there is a lot more commonalities rather than divergences. Okay. Um, Indian trade with Africa, I think that has grown up. For example, the export to Africa, drugs, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, transport equipment, machinery, small and medium industries, plastics, wheat, iron and steel. So I can go on and on this list. We also got good number of imports from different parts of Africa, skins, leather, petroleum, crude, pearls, wooden products, raw cotton, iron ore, etc. So it's like a win-win propositions from different countries. So, for example, a small country in Africa, for example, Niger. Okay, I'll give you just one example. Okay, they have got uranium, which is very precious and very rare and very vital also. Okay, uh, and certain countries we need that. Okay, so every country has got some trump cards to play in terms of mineral resources. So if you cultivate good friendly relations with different countries in the world, it really helps in getting a close to getting the benefit in a cooperative ways. In terms of defense cooperation, again, we have got defense uh, exercises or defense regiments going there. Regular training takes place with different things. Um, India giving trainings to some. Of course, the one of the problem in Africa in certain countries are they don't have a clear-cut civil-military relationship. There are countries which are ruled by military junta or military coup kind of takes place very frequently. So, but in spite of that, I think India does have its presence in certain countries in Africa, in both Eastern Africa, Western Africa, Southern Africa, Central Africa, in many ways. So whatever India can do in terms of providing manpower, logistics, expertise, technologies, I think we have done that. Exchange of visits that has taken place at many areas. Okay, number of times we have invited. I think every now and then we see leaders from various African countries. They visit our country, and also our leaders they also visit different African countries. Okay, so because we always try to keep a very open line of communication, it is better to communicate with one another. It is better to create an semblance of a normalcy in that particular ways. The training of peacekeeping operation, I think that is one of the big things that India has done. And I think if India tomorrow or in the next couple of years, I'm not trying to be too overtly optimistic, if India is going to be a permanent member of the UN Security Council, okay, I think one of the big achievements or big contributions of India has been in this field of PKO, peacekeeping operations. And we have seen that how India's peacekeeping operation over the years, over the decades, whether it is in Congo, Namibia, Mozambique, Somalia, Rwanda, Liberia, Angola, Sierra Leone, South Sudan, I can give you many examples. And so number of times when I go to the airport, I see people in blue uniforms. So I used to have chat with them, have a cup of tea, and they used to tell me that they are going on a peacekeeping operations to certain countries in Africa. They feel so happy, so excited. So I think India has contributed in a very significant ways. Okay, of course, we have also taken a lot of hit. There has been number of casualties, okay, due to landmines and number of things. But India, as a matter of policy, has taken a decision that we should try to help out, to reach out, okay, to the people who are less privileged, um, or they need our helps, okay, to solidify or to consolidate their governance or their structures, their mechanisms, etc. So I think that has created again a big groundswell of supports. Cooperation in the Indian Ocean, in this Indian Ocean region, in the Indian Ocean Rim, we have also tried to do that. In spite of the fact that we are not a very rich country like the Western countries or US or other people, but in our own ways, we try to reach out, we try to help. During this COVID crisis, I can give you another example. This pandemic that happened a couple of years ago, India was one of the first country that openly offered, even in fact, free of cost to a number of countries, because they were also suffering even during Ebola. Also, we provided vaccines during COVID-19 crisis that affected the entire world. India did reach out to many, many countries in the world, including countries in Africa, particularly in terms of providing the much needed vaccines, whether it is Covaxin or Covishield. You must be familiar. I mean, it feels just like the other day. I mean, but when good things come, we forget. But it is a reality and it's a fact that happened. The next 14th chapter is political security issues, uh, which is disarmament, arms control, the four pillars of disarmament, the UN, disarmament, nuclear issues, India's nuclear test, disarmament, etc. I think the major takeaway from this particular chapter is basically, I think we need to I mean, what is disarmament and what is arms control? Okay, disarmament, put it in a more personal way. Okay, a person is carrying a gun or holding a gun or a machine gun or AK-47 or holding a knife. Okay, so I basically will ask him or forcibly try to get rid of his weapons, his guns, or whatever it is. That will be like disarm, okay, so that this person cannot pose any threat to himself or to other people, to the neighbors or to the society or to anybody else. That is disarmament. If you put it in a larger context, in a national context, okay, say if a country is completely disarms, okay, so that cannot pose a threat to somebody else. Okay, I mean, loosely you can say at the end of World War II, if you remember, just before that, of course, in the 1930s and 40s, when Japanese Red Army, they occupied Manchuria. Then they're basically on the roll, okay? They occupied one after the other in Philippines. They came to Singapore. They came to Myanmar. They're almost on the verge of entering the main areas in the eastern part of India in a couple of weeks, okay? So at that particular point of time, I think not Franklin D. Roosevelt, the Harry Truman, who was the new president upon the death of uh, President Franklin Roosevelt in US, they decided that too much is too much, okay? And particularly when Japan attacked America in the Hawaiian island of Pearl Harbor, America intervened and America ultimately used nuclear weapons, nuclear bombs against Japan in the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and that ended. Then ultimately, Japan was forced to surrender. Japanese army, the Red Army, was completely disbanded, was completely disarmed. Just like at the end of World War One, the German army was disbanded and disarmed. Okay, so that is one example. Okay, but now you can argue, I mean, in a philosophical way or in a critical thinking, is disarmament a good thing or a bad thing? Is it a good strategy or a bad strategy? I mean, that is something that we can always argue. Okay, But that is exactly what disarmament means. Okay, so when you disarm a particular countries, okay, but again it can raise another question that if you disarm a country, okay, and if you subdue it for a prolonged time, so there might be a backlash. Okay, so that is again another side of the arguments. Now let us come to the other side of the aisle. Okay, arms control. Okay. Disarmament means a person has got 10 knives, okay, in his pocket. Okay, and I'm asking that person to get rid of all 10. Okay, if he get rid of all 10, or if you are successful in doing that, then it is disarmament. So let us say I'm successful, or he agrees to get rid of 6 or 7 or 8. Okay, and he's left with 2. Okay, so that is called arms control. So that is a less desirable option. Okay, from a armament kind of logic, or a armament kind of discourse. Okay, disarmament means completely disarm. You disarm everything. Okay, all your nuclear weapons, conventional weapons, everything. Okay, live peacefully. Okay, arms control. Okay, you put a cap, you limit, you reduce, and that's what we saw in during the Cold War. Okay, in spite of the fact that there has been a lot of proxy wars between US and United States and Soviet Union during these 45 years, 1945 to 1990, whether it is Cuban Missile Crisis, whether it is Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Poland, you can give any number of examples. Okay, when both the superpowers in those days, okay, they came almost eyeball to eyeball. Okay, this arms control agreement was still going unabated, whether it is ABM, anti-ballistic missile treaty, MAD, mutual assured destructions, SALT 1, SALT 2, SALT 3, SALT 4. SALT means what? SALT. It's not like a salt, table salt. Okay, strategic arms limitation talks. Strategic arms limitation talks. This went on during the Carter years in 70s, during Reagan years, okay, during Ford years, okay. So it was going on in the 70s, 80s, 90s, even during the early days, if I remember, when Bill Clinton became the president in 92, okay. SALT 1 series of talks, SALT 2, so it was taking place in Washington, couple of weeks after in Moscow, again Washington, Moscow, Moscow, Washington, like that. And in each things, so they put a cap. So for example, I think I read somewhere that Russia has got about 7,000 nuclear weapons. Okay, and America probably has got 6,000 nuclear weapons, nuclear bombs. Okay, so it used to be, I think it was about 13,000 or 15,000, something like that. Okay, so they put the reduce. Okay, so it can be done in two ways, either in a proportionate way. Okay, so you reduce 1,000, I'm destroying 1,000. Or it can be done in a percentage way. You get rid of 10%, I'm getting rid of 10%. You get rid of 20%, I'm getting rid. So I think that way you saw the number sliding down from 14, 15,000 nuclear warheads to 5,000. So now the argument is it a feasible? Is it a is it the step in the right directions? I mean, somebody can say. I think it is almost like, I mean, let us say your boy or your child is not doing well in math, okay, and you put two tuition masters, okay, two coaches, okay, or you send him to a coaching institute, okay. So that boy, let us say, was getting 10 out of 100, okay, in a math, okay. But after 6 months or after 1 year of intensive coachings, mentoring, etc., that boy got 40. So you can argue 40 is better than 10. Okay. But somebody can say, well, 40 is less than 90. So in a similar way, you can argue that 5,000 nuclear warhead is better than or much less than 13,000 or 14,000. So we are getting less, okay, but not the one that we need. Because in the world, I think in the nuclear things, as I may have told you, like between India and Pakistan, We don't know exactly. This is highly confidential, highly classified. How much nuclear bombs India has, how much nuclear warheads Pakistan has, nobody knows because this is top secret. But most people think probably India has got 140, 150, 160, something like that. And Pakistan, a lot of people think in a very peculiar way, in a very strange way, has got more than India. Okay, maybe 170, 180, 190, we don't know exactly what the number is. Okay, but in a scientific simulated study, it has been found that between India and Pakistan, if both the countries in a open-ended, in a free-dealing way tries to destroy each other, all they need is 7 or 8 nuclear bombs. India can be destroyed, God forbid, with 4 or 5 bombs, and Pakistan can be destroyed with just 1 or maybe 2. Okay, so that means we need less than 10 to destroy India and Pakistan. Okay, but India and Pakistan, both the countries, probably they have got more than 300. Similarly, United States probably has got 5,000 something. Russia right now, they have got probably 6,000, 7,000 something. So both the countries probably has got 13,000, 14,000. So that's a different argument altogether. So the arms control, what it means is before we go for a complete denuclearization, which is the ultimate goal, okay, ultimate vision, it may happen, may not happen. Let us at least try to put a cap, okay, and trying to keep the dialogue process open, trying to keep the communication process open, okay. That's how why we saw this series of agreements, SALT 1, SALT 2, SALT 3, SALT 4. Then we had got START 1, START 2, START 3, START 4. SALT stood for Strategic Arms Limitation Talks. START, 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 like you start running, okay, start. Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. Sounds similar. Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, okay. So that was also a series of negotiations, series of agreements. This took place between at the top level between the presidents of US and Soviet Union during the Cold War, and in fact within the post-Cold War years. Even when Gorbachev was there, when Elsin was there, even in the beginning part of Putin also. Okay, so a lot of those things are. Another argument in terms of this arm control was, you must have heard, in the early part of 90s and I think in the early part of 2000, there is also a movement for denuclearization in terms of zones, in terms of areas, like to make East Asia, okay, a nuclear free zone, South Asia, nuclear free zone, Central Asia, nuclear free zone, okay? And why they did that? Because at least everybody wanted some regional security. If North Korea tries to create some mischief, okay, and they have got, we don't know, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 nuclear weapons, they can create havoc for a government in Japan or in South Korea, for example. So if there is going to be a more formal, structured kind of nuclear free zone in different parts of uh, in a regional levels, Northeast Asia, East Asia, Southeast Asia, South Asia, okay. But that movement did not go too far, okay. Then there is another arms control measures, also some countries they floated, was how about nuclear risk reduction centers, okay, in each capital, Islamabad, in Delhi, in different places, Tokyo, Seoul, Pyongyang, Beijing, okay, nuclear risk reduction centers, okay, and using the red lines. Sorry, red line means the each of the top leaders, okay, if the situation escalates into a very dangerous level where a nuclear war may be possible, may be in the offing, then the president or the prime minister can simply pick up that phone which is red in color, and they can try to diffuse the situation. Instead of escalating, they can de-escalate the situation and diffuse the situation so that things do not go out of hand. Okay, because a lot of times, nuclear issues may go out of control due to misperception or miscalculation, things like that. So I think that's very important. In terms of international terrorism, which is also there, okay, there are issues, the important causes why it happens, okay. Religion is one thing we have seen historically between Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and many other religions, okay. There is intra-religious, inter-religious conflict and cleavages. Ethnic things, I'm superior, you are inferior, the ethnic thing, that can be a major factor. Tribal warfare, okay, cross-border terrorism, economic issues, rich, poor, wider gap, okay, unable to breathe, okay. Great power rivalry, great power ambitions, great power status, that can be one. Ecology, ecological imbalance, that could be a factor. Water crisis, a lot of people say that, I mean, a lot of times, we heard about it. Water, water everywhere, not a drop to drink, okay? So water is not like unlimited kind of things, okay? So a lot of, like you go to Israel, you go to Brahmaputra, that is a big issue. Ganges, that is a big issue. Okay, if China is making a big dam over there on the other side, okay, that is creating problem for us. Okay, so a lot of these things, particularly this issue came into forefront in the aftermath of 9/11, September 11, 2001. So in different countries they came up with different responses in terms of, again, terrorism is not only in terms of land or something happening in New York or Philadelphia. It can be a maritime things, it can be a narco terrorism, it can be cyber terrorism. Somebody is playing cyber attacks in some remote part of the world, and it can completely shut down your computer, my computer, the entire transaction. So it can create a lot of havoc, for example. So terrorism comes with different faces, different facets, and that needs to be taken. And I think different countries in the world, they are paying attention to that. They are trying to develop mechanisms in a unified ways in that particular areas. Okay. Uh, and in terms of the economic issues, in terms of the chapter unit 15, international trade and investment, patterns of trade, MNCs, and the regional cooperation. We discussed about SAARC, ASEAN, Indian Ocean region, APEC, European Union summary. Okay, I think each of these associations, they play very, very important roles. Okay, that doesn't mean that everything is hunky-dory, everything is perfect. There are a lot of contestations. One of the areas why, you can ask me, I mean, why these associations, in spite of the fact they have made some upward movements, they've not been that successful, is because there is lack of enforcement mechanisms. I mean, who is the boss? There has to be somebody like a big boss, okay? Somebody who has to be obeyed, okay? Even if you disagree. It's like, let us say we have a small departmental meeting, okay? Even if we have got differing opinions or differing ideas or agendas, at the end of the day, we need to agree on something. We need to develop and evolve some kind of consensus kind of approach. I think that's very important. That's what one of the major lacunas, whether it is UN General Assembly, whether it is ASEAN or SAARC, etc., etc. Okay, I mean, talking about SAARC, okay, I mean, almost we are all like, if I stand on the street, somebody can tell me maybe I'm from Bangladesh or from Maldives or from Nepal or Bangladesh. Okay, we look alike, we talk alike. There are a lot of cultural affinities. Um, the issues that we talk about are very, very similar. We almost speak their languages. Then, I mean, then why there are so many problems there? Okay, why can't we have a single visa? Like in the European countries, if you visit Germany, you can travel by train to Spain, to France, to Belgium, literally 20, 25 countries, okay? You don't have to apply individual visas. You can get one visa, Schengen visa. You can travel any part using any aeroplanes or trains or anything like of that sort, okay? Similarly, in European Union, you can have one currency, euro. Why can't we have one currency? Why not other countries, they accept Indian rupees? Okay, why there are different currency notes in different parts? Okay, so I'm just giving you some examples. Okay, why can't we have a kind of reciprocal trade relationships with different countries? Okay, in a spirit of give and take kind of thing. So I think these are certain issues. Also, in terms of Indian Ocean, uh, of course, each country need to take care of their national interest. For example, when China, because of its muscular diplomacy, they tried to discuss about this thing, belt and road initiatives, one belt, one road, okay, and trying to create a string of pearls around India, okay, trying to poke their nose into Myanmar, into Bangladesh, into Sri Lanka, Maldives, etc. So India also had to respond, okay, uh, accordingly in terms of developing its own version of Project Mosam, Sagar Mala projects, and also developing different things in Lakshadweep, Amindip Islands, in Andaman Nicobar, etc., etc. So I think these are very contested notions. The different roles that the countries play. For example, in this part of the world, India and China, they're trying to dominate not only the oceans in Bay of Bengal, in Arabian Sea, but it also has got ramifications for trade and commerce and other issues also, the issue of piracy and the role of Coast Guard. I mean, that's a huge amount of literatures that I think if somebody would like to do some research, they can do that, okay? So if this entire Strait of Hormuz, this Cape of Good Hope, this is being choked, okay, then that is going to create a lot of economic turmoil in many parts of the world because they depend on that. For example, Japan, okay, they don't have any natural resources. I was in Japan for many, many years, okay. So they depend on a smooth flow of traffics in the sea, okay, in the Bay of Arabian Sea, in the Bay of Bengal, in Indian Ocean, in Strait of Malacca, Sea of Japan, etc., etc. So during 91 war, they are really worried about it, okay. So there are many countries in the world, in Philippines, in Brunei, in Vietnam, in Singapore, etc. Okay, we do have a good coast guard things. We do have Malabar exercise. We do have maritime. We emphasizing on maritime security. India is also putting now a lot of efforts into strengthening India's naval diplomacies. So I think those things are very, very important in terms of diversifying our security domains and security aspects in terms of MNCs, multinational corporations, particularly in the post-globalized world, when we emphasize on liberalization, okay, we also need to take care of and take notice of our own indigenous industries, indigenous, because we cannot see our indigenous infrastructure or indigenous different medium and small scale industries just getting wiped out. I mean, so that is also something that we need to look into how we can balance both the benefits of globalization and also our own domestic kind of input that we have. Is there a way to harmonize the two? Is there a way to blend the two between globalization and I would like to say globalization? Okay, so is that is that feasible or is that something that we can work into it? Okay. Of course, we need the technologies that they bring about, or the kind of arrangements they talk about. Maybe one of the arrangements you can say like Maruti Suzuki, when it was created, okay, so we need to develop a kind of 50-50 partnership, okay, between Maruti and Suzuki, okay. So I think a lot of things can be done in a bilateral way. Okay, you put the money, okay, and maybe you can share some of the non-classified technologies, etc., etc., and then we can do that. But I think again it depends. I mean, how you deal with that on a different context in different ways, things like that. Okay, so each of the decisions the government takes has its upside and also has its risk. But I think in today's world, you need to be a risk taker rather than a risk averse. I mean, that's my way of understanding and um, things, okay? Unless you take a risk, like you are buying a mutual fund, okay? Of course, you have to put some thought into it, but it is possible there is always that 1% risk that it may go down, okay? Because of the factors which is beyond your control. But if you don't take risk, okay? It's like just like you are called for an interview. You say, I will not go for an interview. Then you are basically excluding yourself from a statistical possibility of getting selected or getting elected. You need to be a stakeholder. It's like in a meeting, I have to state my view, okay, what I think is right or what I think is more possible or doable or feasible. It is maybe at the end of the day, my point may not carry weight or may not get enough support by my fellow friends here and there, okay? But at least I will be getting a satisfaction that I put forth my views in a very candid, in a very cogent manner, okay? And maybe some of the ideas can be incorporated, okay? So I think we should do that, okay? Instead of becoming very shy or becoming perfidy about it, okay? So I think that's all I have to say today. Again, thank you very much. Any quick questions, Ansika, Vinod, Domingo? Quick, any comments for today? Domingos, you are from Mozambique, right?
Yes, sir.
Tell me something about your country, okay? Because I would love to visit your country, okay? Maybe we will meet you in the embassy someday. Because I have
So,
heard about Mozambique. So, what are the big Indian? Just I'm curious. I mean, I have heard about a lot of the Indian companies, Mahindra and Adani. Which are the big companies currently? They are now in Mozambique, private companies.
Jindal.
Oh, Jindal is there. Which one? Stainless
Yes.
steel?
Mining.
Mining. Okay, great,
Yes,
great.
yes,
And okay,
yes.
who else can give me another names?
ICVL.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yes.
How
Tata
about
also.
okay, wonderful. You work in what which capacity? Education, economic, in which wing?
I'm working the visa sections.
Oh, visa sections. Okay. So
Yes.
if I need to fly to Mozambique, I mean, how can I fly? I go to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, or how can I go to Mozambique?
Normally, some people fly from Dubai, from Ethiopia.
Okay, Addis
Uh,
Ababa. Okay,
yes,
okay.
and Doha also.
Doha. So let us say Delhi to Doha. I have been to Doha. I have been to Dubai. So Delhi to Doha, let us say 4 hours. Doha to what is the capital of Mozambique?
Maputo.
Maputo. Okay, how long it takes from Dubai,
Uh,
Doha or Dubai?
5 hours.
5 hours. Okay, so five
Yes,
plus four, 9. Then waiting period. Okay, okay.
yes, yes. 5 hours.
Great, great, wonderful.
Yes.
Okay. How is the weather? What is the best weather to visit Mozambique? Which part of the year?
Maybe now because we don't have much colds in Mozambique. We have some periods we have, but it's not like India. And also we have like tropical winter. It's not
Okay.
much cold and much hot.
Okay. Do you have any rainy season there?
Yes, from December till next month.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
it's like 3 months raining every day.
okay.
Yes,
In terms of
yes.
religion, what is the percentage of Christians? Or do you have any other tribal religions, or mostly they are Christians? What is the or Muslims? I mean, what is the major religions in Mozambique?
Yeah, this question is quite complicated.
Oh,
Sometimes we was thinking that the Christian was the huge, but
mhm.
now we saw that the Muslims are more than Christians because the
Oh,
influence of these Arabic people, yes, they start to influence their employer also to follow them, their religions. And
mhm.
the court periods, post province also, many of them are following these Muslim people.
Okay,
That's why
okay.
it's not easy to see or to know which which is the most big religion in Mozambique. But it's like 50-50. Yeah,
Mhm.
like 50-50. Yes.
Yeah, Jamil, just before okay, I'm done, okay, because I have another class in the evening. Maybe I will see you again at 7 o'clock in the Africa thing. Do you also get opportunities to watch Indian movies, Indian Bollywood movies in Mozambique?
Yes. 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 We have a main influence of Indian movies
Which
from
actor or
2000.
who is most popular in Mozambique? Which actor, which actresses?
It Khan.
Shah Rukh Khan, you mean?
Yeah. Yes. 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 And Oh, I sometimes I forget his name, but
Okay.
is
Okay.
old now. Yeah, but from 2000, that
Okay.
artworks from
All
2000
right.
was more
Very
popular.
nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
so now because of Hollywood and this Netflix, we don't
Mm.
have many influence of yeah,
Won- Wonderful.
yeah. But
Okay.
the High Commission of India also promotes there the cinema of Bollywood, that festivals and invite many personalities there, many people, many scholars also.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's why we have many influence from Hindi also. Like we have from now restaurants, clothes, stores from India. This means that we have still now influence from India in the country.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Vinod, I think just I will respond to you. Okay, then we'll end these sessions. Okay, BRIC is trying for common currency. How practical is that? Okay, so that's your question. Very quickly, I think from a BRICS point of view, I think uh, it seems to me they would like to have an alternative kind of things. It's not like a contesting or wrestling with the dominance of dollar. Okay. Uh, I don't think they have said anywhere openly or explicitly they are going for de-dollarizations. Okay. But that was definitely in the in the scheme of things, and we have read that. Okay. Particularly in the last couple of months before this US election took place. And when Trump got re-elected, okay, he's, as I said repeatedly, he's very much in favor of America first policy, America great again, okay, in terms of trade, commerce, and everything. If somebody is not going to toe his line, it's almost like George W. Bush. It's my US way or the highway, my way or the highway kind of things, okay? So they are against anybody who is even remotely trying to develop an alternative currency, whether it is yuan or a BRICS currency among themselves. But I think as long as my understanding is from a practical point of view, as long as Trump is going to be there and he will be there for next 4 years, okay? So I think you will not hear BRICS or for that matter any other countries that are going to do anything overtly or in a to create any kind of problems because he may retaliate in many multiple ways. Okay, so I think for a long time you will see this effort or this jockeying for a common currency or a non-dollar denominations. I think that will get a low profile. It will be in the cold storage. It will be in the limbo. It will be in the fridge. That is my understanding. As long as Trump is there, I don't think he will allow the dollar to be diluted or the dominance of dollar to be diluted in particular ways. Okay. So thank you very much. Again, I will see you at 7 o'clock. So please enjoy your lunch. Thank you once again. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
sir.
Thank you. Thank you. See you in the evening at 7. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Sir, yours is mute. Sir, yours is mute.
Okay. So see you.